Before we get started, hey there, I'm Jason Linett, and maybe you've heard me say this before. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. And the one thing that will grow our hypnosis profession better than anything else is to have more of you out there helping your own clients and thriving in your own hypnosis businesses. That's why I'm inviting you to join our private community, exclusively for listeners of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast. We have several thousand members in the group, and this is where recent guests of the program share additional resources related to their episode. It's a positive community with hypnotic professionals from all around the world, so it's a great place to get your questions answered. And as a benefit, as soon as you join, I'm going to share with you the best of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast archives. And listen to this. It's absolutely free to join. Go to this website, group.worksmarthypnosis.com. Go there right now, answer a few quick questions, and I'll personally be there to welcome you into this helpful community. Be sure to join today. That website is group.worksmarthypnosis.com. So many of you I have found are cautious, are timid, are downright terrified to tell your audience what to do next, to ask them to take the next step, whether it's to buy something, sign up for a consult. And I want you to realize that this formula isn't just for the benefit of your audience, it's also for you. Because now it's not just a CTA, it's not just a call to action, it's now a motivated call to action. Hypnosis helps people take back control of their lives. But here's the thing. Too many hypnotists struggle to get consistent results with their clients or grow their hypnosis businesses. I'm Jason Linett, and after more than 2 decades of building a thriving hypnosis practice, I created this podcast to help you do the same. Whether you're just starting your hypnosis journey or if you're ready to scale your business to the next level, you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to Work Smart Hypnosis. There is a pretty good chance that you're making this mistake right now with your hypnosis business. And from what I've seen around this industry, and yes, indeed, around the world, it's probably the number one reason why people are not booking with you and not paying you at the consistency that you would want. Though before we get into it, let me give a quick little historical reference here and give respect where it's due. There's an amazing book called Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. And inside of there, he talks about a variety of different influence triggers, and specifically the one that plays into this week's episode of the podcast is the concept of reciprocity. As he would write in his book, the rule of reciprocation says that we should try to repay what another person has provided to us. So the basic breakdown of that would be this idea that because I've given you something of value, you would then feel some sort of psychological obligation to then pay me back in some way. Easiest example of this, you've been walking around the food court of a shopping mall and someone is giving out samples of a specific food. You try it, you like it, and then somewhere in your brain is not just the dialogue of, hey, this thing tastes good, it's also the thought of, hey, I should get something from them. So yes, that absolutely is a trigger that activates a sense of influence and persuasion in the mind. Here's the thing that this week's episode is all about, specifically for Make It Rain Monday, where I come on and I share with you something that you can put into action right away inside of your business. It's that I'm consistently finding that this still works. However, it doesn't quite work exactly the same way that it used to. So something has shifted in our global narrative. Something has shifted in the ways that people respond to different pieces of information. And rather than just make this episode about, hey, here's something, it doesn't work as well, do something else. No, instead, I'm going to share with you a very simple change that you can put into motion. And by doing so, make this now actually work. Which, by the way, if you're curious, I would kind of mark it up to the concept of market sophistication. People have become so accustomed to getting things for free that now it doesn't quite immediately jump to that part of the brain to go, oh, I should pay more. And before we even get into this, let me address something here right from the start. No, Jason Linett is not telling you, that's a lot of double negatives. No, I'm not telling you to provide zero value. Some people have very wrongly misquoted me on this topic here. So yes, absolutely provide value. Yes, and I'm going to give you ways to do that here in this episode too. Yes, absolutely provide value. Yes, share something that's going to be helpful to people. However, we want to avoid a couple of bad triggers within the brain, which would be the place where someone on the other side could go, oh, I already know that, so I don't need that. Or another place where people can go, well, I did that, and that didn't help me. And that's when then, unfortunately, they dismiss you and your business altogether. You see, this is, again, one of the biggest things that I've discovered needs to change as I've worked with people and hypnotists around the world, around their marketing, their websites, their funnels. The fact is, unfortunately, so many of you are accidentally training your audience to not buy from you. You are inadvertently conditioning people to not get results with you in the early stages of your marketing journey, and that's why they're not buying from you in the future, which briefly, if you're curious about having me and my team work with you to rebuild your website and your essential sales funnels to truly drive the traffic and drive the profitability of your hypnosis business, head over to website.worksmarthypnosis.com. So before I get into the details of this, yes, you're still going to provide value to people. And yes, you're going to create genuine content that actually serves people. However, something else needs to happen, and that's what this session is about. It's episode number 452, so you can find the resources and the show notes attached to this episode by going over to worksmarthypnosis.com/452. And with that, let's dive directly in. This is session number 452, the number one thing missing in your... Has your hypnosis client ever said this to you? I felt relaxed, but I don't know if I was hypnotized. If you've heard that before, it means that one of the most critical elements was missing from your hypnosis session. You might have done every hypnosis technique and every hypnotherapy method correctly, but you've accidentally sabotaged your chances of your client getting their desired result. Here's the good news. It's an easy problem to fix. Check out this website, power.worksmarthypnosis.com. This is where you can get instant access to my Hypnotic Phenomenon Power Pack featuring the Hypnotize with Conviction program. It's a foolproof system to reliably create magical moments of hypnotic phenomenon with all of your clients, whether you see them in person or even online. What this does for you is help to build greater conviction that the desired change is already in motion. And even better, it means that your client will be able to actually feel the change taking place. How cool is that? It's these types of magical moments that helped my clients to become the people who sent me referrals and left me 5-star reviews. And I'm inviting you to grab this low-cost method that you can learn today and put to use with your next client. So go to power.worksmarthypnosis.com. Marketing. I'm about to walk you through a specific formula that solves the problem that this week's podcast episode is all about. Though before we do that, I want to point out 2 quick things. One of them is that, first of all, I'm going to plant a little bit of a seed for later, and I'm going to come back to this pretty soon to explain it. I just want you to remember for a moment what the actual title of this week's podcast episode is. It's called The Number One Thing Missing in Your Marketing. Let me say it again. This will be important in a moment. The number one thing missing in your marketing. Just remember that, file that away for a few moments. I'll come back to it in like 3 or 4 minutes. So that's thing number 1. Thing number 2 is let's establish a bit of a communication mechanism between you and me here by way of a metaphorical description that's going to make things a lot easier for us to break this down. And I apologize in advance because the terminology I'm going to use, it's a bit colorful, it's a bit negative. It's going to go to a positive place though, so listen carefully. Right now, your audience, your people who could become your potential clients, the people who eventually could be paying you for what you do, they are currently in a problem state. They are currently living with a conflict, and they are living on a location right now that we're going to call, for our purposes, Hell Island. Yes, I could probably come up with better terminology, but because I don't like it, I think it actually illustrates this better. So right now, they're living in a problem state. That's why they're looking for a solution. They want to move and migrate away from Hell Island. Now, where do they want to go? They want to go to a place where now that problem doesn't exist. They want to go to a place where now they're living inside of their solution and they have what they want, as opposed to what they don't want. They don't want to be on Hell Island. They want to be on Pleasure Island. Now, listen very carefully to this next statement. Your program, your sessions, your service, your package, your whatever it is that it happens to be that you want to sell them, that needs to be positioned as the thing that will bridge them from where they currently are to where they want to go. That is one of the biggest things that's currently missing from the majority of you that are out there. And I see it consistently as we work with people on their websites and essential sales funnels of their hypnosis businesses. Let me put this in a very simple way. If you don't spotlight the gap, you have not yet given your audience a reason to buy from you. So let me break down the metaphor a little further here. There's an ocean landscape with two islands. One island is Hell Island. The other island is Pleasure Island. Everything you would do in the marketing and the promotion of your business needs to eventually position you and your services as the bridge to get from one place to another. If you don't do that, then you haven't yet given people a reason to buy. That space in between the two, by the way, I'm going to consistently refer to that as the gap. So let me say it one more time. If you don't spotlight the gap, you have not yet given your audience a reason to buy from you. And for anybody out there, by the way, who might be thinking, I'm not a business person, I'm not a sales and marketing person, well, here's a quick little aside to that. All communication is about selling. All communication is about getting someone to buy into something that you're suggesting. And you remember a few moments ago where I said, hey, quick thing, little planting of a seed. Remember the name of this week's podcast episode is the number one thing missing in your marketing? Guess what I did there? That little phrase alone shined a metaphorical spotlight on a gap. It pointed out something was missing. And because you heard that, that's why you're still listening to me. Cool, right? This stuff actually works. So the whole purpose of this week's episode, by the way, is not just to stand here and speak to you and record an episode and say, here is the theory of what needs to happen. No, my friends. We're going to break it down in a very actionable way. Because in all the work that I've done in my business and working inside of other people's businesses as well, I'm always someone who is looking for formulas. I'm looking for frameworks. I'm looking at something and looking at it from the perspective of asking, what actually is making this work? So the current version of what I'm about to share with you is my best version of this, which likely means check with me again in about 3 or 4 years, and I might have a slightly tweaked way of talking about this. However, the more that I try to refine the formula I'm about to share with you, the more I realize any variation is still the original. And even better, you can look at more advanced, effective marketing systems and get caught up in the idea that maybe this thing is better than that one. Oh, this needs to be a webinar rather than an online course. This needs to be a live event. This needs to be a group program versus a one-to-one. Set all that aside. All of that is distraction because the real reality is this 4-step framework that I'm about to walk you through and just give you on this episode here today. You can find this framework inside of everything else that's out there. I'm going to break it down, but we're going to spend most of our time talking about this concept of spotlighting the gap and then filling it so that you are positioned as the bridge that actually provides the solution. Here is the 4-step framework, and I'm going to, again, spotlight a specific section of it because that's what this episode is about this week. We always begin with a hook. And the hook is the thing that you do that actually grabs the attention of the audience. So let me do this in the simplest way. I'm going to talk to you for the rest of this episode as if I was producing a video to go on social media, or even let's say a video to go on my website for my practice. So for the hook, I'm going to give you 2 simple formulas that will help us then move to the next step here, which is I could either ask a question that invites your curiosity, or I can make a bold statement that grabs your attention. So either a bold statement or a question that invites curiosity. I'll give you a simple one for right now. I could say, quitting smoking is a lot easier than you've ever thought it to be. There's a bold statement. Or I can make it a question. What if quitting smoking could be a whole lot easier than you've ever thought it to be? There we go. We've now grabbed the attention of our desired audience. In a deeper, more extended version of this talk, I have now dog whistled the audience, and now my people that I want to respond are now paying attention. Now to the next part of this. The formula is hook followed by value. Now, back to Dr. Robert Cialdini, back to his principles of influence, back to reciprocity. This is where, yes, indeed, I am going to provide value. So once I've grabbed attention with the hook, I'm going to share something of value, and I'm going to give you some really simple formulas, 3 of them. You can just kind of file away for later here. One version of providing value is that you could teach something. You could actually teach a specific method. Here's something you can do for cravings. Here's something you can do to cut back. Here's something you can do today to take down stress. So one version of value is, well, actually provide value by educating and informing and teaching something. Another version of value could be that you're telling a story to reframe a perception. You're telling a story in a way that you're going to be replacing how they think about a certain issue. I'm going to go to a different topic here because here's where I had a client years ago who, for weight loss, had this massive epiphany that by the time he lost 70 or 80 pounds of body weight, it wasn't just that he lost weight. It was that for the first time ever, he let it be an easy process. He didn't go into it thinking, this is going to be hard. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to be miserable. So I can tell that full extended story because that, well, is a source of value. It tells a story that reframes a perception. Or option 3 for value, I can just explicitly say, hey, here's what needs to happen. Here is the what step by step needs to occur. Step 1, you got to do this. Step 2, you got to do that. Step 3, do this. So far, let's recap where we are right now. We've done a hook to grab attention. We've provided value. And again, I had someone who misquoted this talk a while ago and said, Jason teaches people not to provide value. And I go, no, yes, I do. The magic is the next step. Hook, value, gap. In the longer description of it, I say spotlight the gap. But here's the thing. If you're going to provide value to people, you need to tell them explicitly what that value is. And you owe it to them to explain how and why it is not the entire solution. And I'll give you a simple little memory hook for this one here. The value that you provide ought to be something that potentially solves the problem before the problem, but not the entire problem itself. I promised you we're going to talk about the example of stop smoking. And think about this for a moment. If you're having an issue where you're living on Hell Island and you want to quit smoking, I could show you a way that when you identify a craving, you could then get rid of that craving, right? But think about it. Does that mean you're going to quit smoking? No, not necessarily. So there's one of the easiest examples of this. I can fully deliver, I can over-deliver on the promise of here's what you do with a craving. Yet again, you and I know that is not the entire solution. So your responsibility, the whole purpose of this week's Make It Rain Monday edition of the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast, you've got to spotlight the gap so that then you can fill it. I'll give you a very simple phrase that makes this easy. As helpful as that is, what really needs to also happen is this, this, and that. So as helpful as this is, this also needs to address this other part of the issue, this other part of this issue, this other part of this issue. I could even say you've got everything you need for this one specific thing. But what about all the other parts of it? And for that, well, my friends, that leads us to step number 4 of this, which is the CTA. That's the shortcut for call to action. And here's what you've actually done here. So many of you I have found are cautious, are timid, are downright terrified to tell your audience what to do next, to ask them to take the next step, whether it's to buy something, sign up for a consult. And I want you to realize that this formula isn't just for the benefit of your audience, it's also for you. Because now it's not just a CTA, it's not just a call to action, it's now a motivated call to action. You've got exactly what you need for this one part of the bigger puzzle. However, what about this part and this part and that part? And that's why there's a button on this page to then grab a time to speak with me so that we can set a plan to work together one-to-one and resolve this and bring you to Pleasure Island. Don't say that. That's for you and me here. But do you see the difference here? We're now motivating every step along the journey. So the entire formula, again, from start to finish. And again, this is embedded inside of everything you're going to find in terms of, I'll put it this way, effective marketing. Maybe I shouldn't say you can find this in every piece of marketing, because a lot of stuff that you all have out there isn't working. And for some of you right now, you might be listening to everything that I've talked about, and you might be thinking back to previous attempts that you've done to grow your business, previous lead magnets or opt-in offers or presentations that you've given, and then you were frustrated that it didn't produce the business that you wanted. And I bet you, for many of you right now, you're thinking, oh, that's why it didn't work, which I'm curious to hear from you, by the way. I'm Jason. This is Work Smart Hypnosis. Send an email to jason@worksmarthypnosis.com. If you send me an email with the story of what the thing was and let me know what's different now based upon the formula that I've just shared with you, I'm going to share with you a really cool private opportunity. So again, let's go through the entire formula. Hook, grab their attention. Value, actually provide value. Gap, this is the number one thing that's missing from your marketing. Gap, point out what also needs to happen. Point out what's missing. And the last step then is the motivated call to action, the CTA. Now, one final kicker to this would be the fact that as you provide that value, some people would hear this, and I've had people reach out over time and go, I don't know if I want to do that because I don't want people to feel like I shortchanged them. Well, remember a few moments ago, I actually used a magical sentence, which was, you now have everything you need for this one thing. I'm not promising the entire solution on the front end of it. And if you want the easiest explanation as well as simultaneous demonstration of this, well, guess what, my friends? You now have everything you need to look at your marketing and realize one of the things that's likely been missing, and now shift your language, shift your potential client journey so that now you are positioning yourself as the bridge to then be the solution to get them from where they are to where they want to be. Right now, you have the very simple 4-step framework of hook, value, gap, call to action. You have the simple step-by-step understanding of exactly what needs to happen so that now you have a reminder you need to spotlight the gap and position yourself as the thing that's going to fill that gap and provide the solution. You have what you need for that. However, what about designing the entire narrative of your website and your essential marketing funnels so that now you're building that desire so that people actually then take the first step? What about actually bringing traffic, bringing an audience to the stuff that you're doing? What about stepping into the position as the authority so people feel confident to actually hire you? What about having the freedom and the ease to easily grow your hypnosis business online and offline on your own without being dependent upon others? And if that's something you want some help doing, head over to website.worksmarthypnosis.com to get a feel for exactly what it would be like as we work together, and even better, just plug some things into your business that have already been proven to work and help you to reach that success even faster. You see what I did there? We just did the formula right there. Spotlight the gap, and then you can fill it. Thank you for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast with Jason Linett. The more we're all successful, the more we're all successful. I've made that statement for years. It's why I do this show. And here is one thing that you can do today to help do your part. Go to worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast. Go there and make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcast platform. And if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you'd leave a review. Your feedback helps other hypnosis professionals find the show. Subscribe and share your thoughts today at worksmarthypnosis.com/podcast.